we have Shiloh Van Tietenhove, wife of the Patriot Prepper. She's going over what we were talking about in last week's show, which is canning of a meal in a jar. What do we got going on here, Shiloh?
We're doing roast, mixed vegetables, and potatoes. Instead of straight water, we'll be using the drippings from when we cooked this overnight. Added extra salt, and if you can look at the side, you can see precisely what's going on. Meat, veggie, starch. So we're gonna have to process these at 10 pounds. See, we're doing meat and vegetables, which means we have to use pressure cooker rather than boiling water method. So we're gonna process these at 10 pounds for an hour and a half because these are pint jars. Your processing time always varies depending on the size and what it is you are canning. So, alright, and this is a hot pack, which means that we are using hot jars and hot food and hot liquid.
So you boiled the jars beforehand, right?
Yes. Well, you clean them and then what I found is the easiest. At first I used the dishwasher to warm the jars because our old dishwasher had a dish warming setting. Fancy. But after I started making lemon curd and my sister-in-law got me this cool book, and the author in there actually uses, while we're waiting, because it takes forever for all this water to start boiling. I don't care if you've got an electric range or a gas one or a glass top, it still takes forever. And what she does is she puts her jars in here after she's cleaned them and uses this to warm them, which is so much more efficient and it's very effective. So, and you'll see here, these are your lids with the seal, and you put them in water. You don't want to boil the water, but get it plenty warm so that it can seal properly. And you're going to have to excuse me while I go get a wash. Well, actually, a paper towel will work. There are a few things you need before you start with the final step of canning. You want a washcloth or something to clean the rims off with, because you won't get a good seal if you've got food on your rim. Then you also need, and they come in cool little kits too. They used to have a whole matching set. These are your jar graspers. This here has a magnet in the end of it so you don't burn your fingers. And then there used to be a blue tool you used to get the air bubbles out, and mine has vanished. So, spatula works brilliantly. Okay, I'm going to turn this down.
So how long does this whole process take from start to finish?
Oh, well, I mean, you cook your food, unless you're doing a raw pack, and there are some things that you do. Raw packs, there are some meats and some ways that you can do your meats that you can absolutely do a raw pack. But, see, I took a girl swimming. We got home at about 4, and I had already had the roast cooked, so I'd say maybe half an hour. In the time it takes for this to start boiling, you can get everything else set up. It can all go pretty quick and easy if you're organized and know what you need to do. And I like to have everything ready beforehand, so I'm not running around doing weird things. Here's all my rims, so let's see. Let me double check how much head space. And if you were watching, I told you about the Ball Blue Book. This is one of them. And it has wonderful, wonderful things. See, it says we need to leave an inch head space, which is how much extra or how much air you leave in the top. And the Bald Blue Book has all sorts of neat little diagrams. Like I said, it goes over the basics entirely. It shows you how much, so you can eyeball that you've got the correct headspace. Again, it goes over pressure cooking and boiling water method and your pressure cooking as well. It's invaluable as a beginner. I highly recommend it. You can get fancier and more obscure and outlandish after you got the basics down. And again, as we saw in the book, we need an inch head space. And there's your inch. And then you just use whatever tool you're using. Like I said, I'm using a spatula. Just kind of run it around.
Once you get the air bubbles out.
Exactly, because there's no point if you're sealing bacteria in there. And then, so you're starting to get a good seal. And there you go. And you go through all of it. You need the top to your pressure cooker and each washer, the top itself, I believe that one's 10. You add 1, that's 20, and another is 30 pounds. So we're just doing 10, although I don't want to lie to you, so let me check and make sure, because I always check anyway. Because if I don't, inevitably, I will be totally steering you wrong. Sorry. They're 5-pound rings, so this is 5. That's 10, and this is 15. And we need 10 pounds of pressure to do this particular project. So, plug in 1 ring. And be warned, it does take forever for your pressure to build up. Once you've got all your cans in there and you've got your lid on and all that sort of thing, there's just no getting around it. It takes forever for the pressure to build up.
About how long when you say forever? Is it 40 minutes, an hour?
I mean, it depends, again, on how many pounds of pressure and that sort of thing, but generally, wow, I'd say at least half an hour, maybe even longer. Then on the upside, you know, you can hear when it's up to pressure, and I'm sure Jason will cut back and get a shot of that once it finally occurs.
Yeah, the pressure cooker makes all kinds of interesting sounds and noises and movements.
Indeed, and it often sounds like it is going to blow up.
Yep. Which there is a slight possibility it could, but there are safety valves and such involved.
Indeed. So, you know, always, you know, wash your lid, and when you get your pressure cooker, if you get it new, I would recommend you do, because that way you're sure to have all your valves, all your bladders, they're all good and not cracked and destroyed.
And there is also, there's a lot of counties that have canning educational workshops. I know in Kentucky, Jackson County, that they actually will give you everything you need, including a pressure cooker, jars, all of that they get through subsidies and whatnot. So, and you can then sign up, and they'll do free classes. And it is very important at first that you know what you're doing, because you can, you know, botulism will kill you. So, you know, it's something that you want to do right. But once you kind of get the gist of it, it's a very easy, efficient way to cook and store food. All right. Well, thank you so much, Shiloh.
All right, real quick note. You don't want to screw your rims on too tight. You can end up destroying the seal. You can prevent it from happening if it's too tight.
You mean the seal? Prevent it from actually sealing up.
Prevent the seal from occurring. So just, close it.
Now you wipe down the jar beforehand. Go ahead and
absolutely.
show us from the start.
All right, I'll show you from the start. And let me put this one up. Okay, so again, get out your air bubbles. Wipe around down your rim. Don't throw your lid inside your band, because then you're not making certain that it's placed correctly. Then
So put the top on, then band it.
Right. And then, as you saw, until it stopped, and a little bit tighter. You don't want it to be loose, but you don't want it overly tight.
Now the actual top itself is this a rubber coating? It actually almost melts.
That's my understanding of it.
So that's what we want to avoid damaging by over tightening.
Right. Because if you get it too tight, because it's already malleable since we warmed them up. That's the whole point of that. But, my guess is if you put your rim on too tight, you can squash it down and out so that it's not sealing on the top, it's only available on the sides. If that makes any sense at all.
Yep.
And make sure that there isn't any guck in here so that the air can get through and you can gain pressure. And this is going to make me look like a complete idiot because inevitably it takes me forever to figure out where the notch is. See, like I said, there we go. Yay. Okay, so we've got it all sealed up. Got that on. And now all we can do is wait for pressure to build. When it's up to pressure, your little knob here will start rocking. And that is when you start timing your processing session. Once that starts rocking. And once that starts rocking, you can decrease your stove because it will hold temperature pretty well, even at a very low temperature. If I end up with extra stock at the end, I keep a hold of it. I might need it for gravy later in the week. I might need it for canning, anything. Honestly, even when I can vegetables, just because we're doing it in preparation, I always try to use some sort of stock or anything just so that it's extra flavor, it's extra calories. I'm packing as much as I possibly can nutritionally into those jars. So, anyway.
Alright, here's what the pressure cooker looks like when it's rocking and rolling. So the pressure's been built up, and with the weight, it kind of bobbles there and lets pressure off. Now, once it does get to temperature like that, you can turn down your heat, because otherwise you're just wasting electricity. These are very efficient units, so you don't need much. It does take a lot to heat it up in the first place, but once it's rocking and rolling, you need to turn the heat back. There you go.